Texas officially announced a move to the SEC in 2024. On top of that, winter conditioning is widening down. So let's check in on some key players as we near the arrival of spring ball. Eric Nahlin, owner of Inside Texas, is stopping by to give us some behind-the-scenes news of the program as we gear up for the start of spring ball. Inside Texas is the place to always stay in the know on your favorite team year-round. Subscribe to InsideTexas.com today. Link in the description. So how did the SEC deal come together, and which players are going to make some noise early into their tenure? Without further ado, let's get into it. What's up, Eric? The big SEC announcement is finalized for a 2024 arrival. So what were the major sticking points, and how did the deal come to fruition a year ahead of schedule?
Yeah, the SEC thing finally came together, and the reason it came together was everybody wanted it to get done. And now there's a bunch of leverage plays at the very end, which typically happens when these deals probably happen to you if you try to go buy a car at some point. They switched up the numbers at the last minute and things changed, and you had to sort of renegotiate to get it over the line. But the bottom line was it made sense for every single party involved. And once that happens, something's eventually going to get done as long as everybody stays motivated. It was a matter of time and getting it over the line. It was a very complicated deal. Everybody had to be made whole. It was a deal where nobody was going to win and nobody was going to take a loss. When they had to get to that point, to where it was even for pretty much everybody. And obviously, Fox was a big sticking point. There was a point over the last month where it sounded like the Ohio State and Michigan games would be canceled altogether. To me, that sounds like Texas playing leverage, Texas and OU playing leverage. Now, as it turns out, those games are back on in a way that makes Fox whole from losing the inventory of Texas and OU leaving a year early. The number came out that Texas and OU will play 50. Somebody's getting paid 50, but that's not coming directly from those schools. They'll pay some for sure, but they'll be made whole through other parties. So it's a convoluted deal. Anybody talking about Texas paying $50 million to get out, technically that's going to be correct, but it's not 100% accurate.
I've heard a lot of questions about how this affects recruiting, but Texas is already recruiting nationally at a top 5 level, and recruits knew this was coming. So do you expect any sort of bump now that we have the official date set?
Yeah, I don't predict this to be a big mover in recruiting because I think that was already priced in, sort of like the markets. Good news and bad news is usually priced in way before that good news or bad news actually hits. People already expected Texas to be in the SEC. It was just a matter of time. Maybe it helps a little bit here and there because there is clarity. But overall, I think the trend is already positive. I don't think it's going to have a big bounce. But, they can say with a little more certainty that, yeah, they are going into the SEC and this is the exact date. You could play in front of your mom on this date. Basically, it was just a reason to pick up the phone with those kids and make another run out of them and say, hey, look, we told you it was going to happen. It's going to happen. Let's keep building this relationship. But I don't expect a big bounce out of it. I think that already occurred.
Does it give us any edge with a specific position group like defensive line, for example? I know we already recruit the Deep South a lot, but does it provide a regional boost for those type of guys?
I don't know if it improves it that much. I mean, if you look at where they've already recruited a number of defensive linemen from the SEC, but they're going to have to continue hitting that area hard no matter what. That they need those defensive linemen. That's where they are. That's what they go to the SEC and then they go to the NFL. They come from that region, they stay in that region, then they get drafted and go wherever. But Texas has to continue hitting that hard, especially in this cycle. There's some needs across the board that can be addressed in that region, and they're working towards it. How it plays out, I have no idea. The news helps, but it's they already knew they were going to the SEC. If they were staying in the Big 12, then we're wasting our time having this conversation about going after those kids.
The SEC slate has better teams more consistently week in and week out. And on top of that, Texas has Michigan and Ohio State scheduled for out of conference. How does Texas prepare for that jump in competition?
The level of competition is something you have to account for sure. But two things happened around the same time that Texas was announced to the SEC: NIL and the college playoff expansion. At least the discussion ramping up, and then finally coming to play. And I said, it's these two factors that make sense for Texas to go to the SEC now. So playoff expansion means that the conference slate, as difficult as it is, means a little bit less because more teams are going to still get in the playoffs. Really, all you got to do is get in there, punch your ticket, and hopefully you get hot and win it all. So I'm not quite as concerned about the conference competition. I mean, obviously it's going to be difficult. Most important for Texas is that they go into the SEC on a good roster cycle. And I think that's, because they're not going in 2023, they're going in 2024. I think they're going to be on possibly an ideal roster cycle, although they could be breaking in a new quarterback. That's yet to play out. But as far as maturity across the board elsewhere, they're going to have great skill players. They're going to have a really good offensive line. So the roster cycle sets up to hit the ground running in 2024. And to me, that's the most important factor pretty much with the timing of the deal.
Good stuff. And now let's switch gears to team news. Spring ball is about to start, and we're going to see the guys in action. Who are some of the early enrollees that are looking at early playing time?
Yeah, I'm excited about spring ball, and I appreciate the scheduling. Give us early March all the way to the middle of April because they started it before spring break. So we'll get a little taste of what's going on behind the scenes, and then they get a week off to compartmentalize and figure it all out, and then they'll hit the ground even harder. It's going to be a great time for a number of freshmen to step up and stake a claim to playing time. There as many upperclassmen as there is on the roster, and as much experience as there is, there's still plenty of opportunity, especially with so many kids coming in at need positions. Leona Lafau, Anthony Hill are going to get a good shot at will linebacker. I expect both to play a lot as true freshmen. That's already the word going around. They haven't even hit the field yet. Jonte Cook and DeAndre Moore are going to play a lot as a freshman. Already hearing that. Savion Red moving to running back and Vernon Thompson running track this spring opens up the door for the younger receivers a little bit. Obviously, Cedric Baxter has to get assimilated quick because he's going to play a big role next year, probably get 100-plus carries.
Speaking of the wide receiver room, we brought in a new coach in Chris Jackson. What's the word on his assimilation into the program?
Yeah, the word on Chris Jackson is that he's building relationships well already. I think he kind of fits that professional sort of model that Sark wants to instill across the board, across the program, from coaches to players to trainers to everybody. So far, he's a good fit. We'll learn a lot more about him after he starts coaching these kids and coaching them hard. Then we start to see what kind of his coaching personality is. His regular personality right now is definitely winning people over.
AD Mitchell was a big addition to the wide receiver room as well. What are you hearing about him during winter workouts? And there's still a ton of excitement about Isaiah Neyor. How is his recovery progressing?
Yeah, AD's winning over the locker room quick. Everybody said he's got the look that he's been there. He's done that. A lot of confidence, but carries himself well, working hard. It was said to me that he's just a lot different than the Alabama cast-offs they got at receiver previously. Pretty clear juxtaposition between a guy that Georgia wanted to keep and a couple of guys that Alabama didn't necessarily care about. And so, yeah, he's going to play a lot. Obviously, he's going to start in the boundary, especially when they run 11 personnel. He's going to play a ton. He's going to make a lot of catches. Just has to stay healthy. The good thing about AD Mitchell is that you're getting two receivers. You're putting two receivers in their ideal position. That he enables Worthy to go outside and just fly down the field or come back and catch the ball with a lot of space to operate in. And then obviously Whittington is more of a slot than he's an outside receiver. So there's a lot of returns just by getting one good player and going to 11 personnel. Isaiah Neyor, obviously, is a very talented and working very hard to get back. He wants to go in spring. I think the coaches are going to slow him down on that. Bring him back gradually. He'll be out there probably in a green jersey. I don't expect to see him running routes with the receivers, but he'll be out there. They'll bring him back slowly through the summer, and then he'll be full go in August. But, he wants to go. He's champing at the bit to get out there. He sees the competition ahead of him. But how much he plays is just entirely up to how healthy he is when he returns, how confident he is in his route running. Based on what we heard, I don't care how many people they bring into the program or how many they already had. To me, he's the most complete receiver in the program based on what we had heard last spring. So hopefully he comes back healthy. And if he does, then he's going to earn a lot of playing time.
And then we got Quinn going into year 2, and some workout pictures show he's slimmed down and even cut the mullet off. So is his maturation process going well as he steps into that main leadership role on the team?
Yeah, in the day and age of NIL, Quinn should have turned this into a makeover show. He's getting his hair cut, trimming up the beard. He's leaning up. It looks like he's going after a girl. Like he's got to win over a girl that he's disappointed. And she said, "You're not taking life seriously. I'm out the door." And she goes and dates a stockbroker. But he's trying to win her back. And right now he's really turning into he's maturing. And people could say, "Oh, he's just working out or whatever." A lot goes into changing your body. You have to change your mind too before you do that. You have to really work on it. And for a college guy that's got the world is his oyster, he's there's a lot of things he's turning down daily. There's a lot of fun he's turning down. Demonstrated by the pictures, he's leaned up a lot, and we're going to see a new athlete out of him because he's more athletic than people realize. Cut the hair. I don't know that matters quite as much, but it is a signifier that he's taking things a little more seriously. What we heard was that he wants to be more of a leader, and he knows to be taken seriously, he has to do the right things more consistently. He was never a bad guy or anything like that. He was never a bad leader or anything. He's just taking things more seriously.
Great stuff as always, Eric. Please tell the viewers where they can stay locked in as spring ball quickly approaches.
Yeah, come find us at InsideTexas.com. We're running a special right now, $30 until the first game of the season. We've got a very complete team already, but with Jake Lange recently. Jake was in the Texas personnel department for 5 years, brings a brand new perspective to Inside Texas from the program. We already had it covered pretty well, but Jake is going to make us even better. Very exciting time. Happy to have him. Just a great guy overall. He joins a very successful team already. It's just a good indication that we're always trying to get better. We're always trying to increase the value of a subscription at Inside Texas. And on top of it, we have a very strong community. It's just a fun place to be. If you think Twitter's terrible and social media is terrible, you're going to get all that information on Inside Texas without having to spend any time there. So come over and check us out.
And that's a wrap on Eric Nahlin. Head over to Inside Texas and sign up today. Thanks for hanging out. Watch some more of my videos here And don't forget to like, subscribe, and share if you want to support Quality Texas content. As always, hook 'em.